Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us for our webinar today. My name is Matt Bain. I'm the Senior Outside Sales Manager for the Midwest Territory at JB&A. I'm also joined by Laura Genoway in our marketing department. She's going to be assisting us with our question and answer session that will be at the conclusion of the webinar. To speak to that, you'll notice that in the Go to Webinar menu, there is a chat section. If you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to enter them in, and we'll circle back at the end to get to all those questions. Again, thank you very much for your time. Hopefully this will be a quick and easy and informative little introduction to the Christie Brio. All right, the Christie Brio, it's really a cool product. It can have a ton of different uses, whether they're being installed in boardrooms or conference rooms or classrooms. It's designed to break down the technology barriers to sharing content and collaborating. As we're going to go through the technology, it's important to realize that many of these features are present in other solutions. However, none of the other solutions really bring all of these features together. The Brio is really the most complete and versatile collaboration technology out there. And even better, it's also one of the least expensive. So I want to give this a little context, and the context to this is really kind of my own personal experiences. When I think about walking into a room for a meeting or a presentation, there are normally a few steps that I have to take to share my content onto the screen. And I know this really well because my role here at JB&A requires that I travel and give product demos all the time. I'm in different offices in different states with different companies. And I normally run into a few scenarios while I'm traveling. Hello, everyone. And this is pretty consistent throughout the country. I'll walk into a room and I'll have my laptop and I need to present something on the screen. So I'm going to have to physically set my computer at a defined spot in the room that the projector or the monitor cables can reach. B, I normally have to carry with me a host of adapters. I use a MacBook, and my MacBook has HDMI and Thunderbolt connections. And a lot of times I go into conference rooms that don't have either of those connections. Pretty much no one has Thunderbolt. Some people have HDMI, but a lot of times I'll find that there's VGA in the room or there's DVI. So I need some sort of adapter to get my computer up to the screen. Now, if they have a wireless system, they're most likely using a system that has a USB stick that I have to insert to my machine, and then I will be able to connect wirelessly to their screen. But almost every time when there's one of those wireless systems in place, I normally have to download some sort of software to make it work. The Brio is really designed to solve all of these issues. It allows me and up to 4 other people in my conference room to wirelessly display content from our machines. We don't have to download anything. I don't have to have a USB device, and I also don't have to be kind of tethered to a certain area in the room. You know, I mentioned that I have a new MacBook, so even if I have one of the kind of other USB type wireless products, that also presents an issue for me. On the new MacBooks, I have 2 USB ports. So the rest of my ports on my machine, like I mentioned, are HDMI or Thunderbolt. So normally what this also means is that I have to carry along a USB hub. A lot of the technologies that I want to present, they could need USB, or I want to connect a mouse or a keyboard. So I have to have a hub just in case I need to add in one of these other kind of USB devices. So that's kind of the context of the Brio and the idea behind it. Here are the Brio physical units, and you'll notice that there are 3. There's the Team Plus, and the Enterprise. These were designed to solve all those headaches that I run into, and I'm sure many of you do as well. With the Team Plus and Enterprise, I also have the ability to hardwire sources in, like video conferencing systems or media players. And I can even connect these to touchscreen monitors, which add a whole nother level of interactivity. With a Brio, I can really walk into a room and wirelessly connect to the monitor in seconds without needing anything else. Furthermore, The installation of it is incredibly simple. All you have to do is connect it to a display. Now, it just uses standard display outputs, so we're not tied to a certain manufacturer. If you already have displays in your conference room, this will connect right to them. It could be displays, it could be projectors or computer monitors. And if I have the Christie Enterprise version, I would also want to connect this to the LAN. In my own experience with probably every other collaboration solution out there, Brio is by far the easiest to immediately get my content up onto the screen. The process of kind of getting up to the screen is really easy. When the Brio is turned on, it will display information to connect to the screen, which is normally done through standard Wi-Fi. And Wi-Fi is present on pretty much every personal device these days. This screen can also be branded with a logo and made very personalized. I can also do things like wirelessly display PowerPoint, which is really nice. So if I have any sort of tablet or any other type of device, I can get my stuff up onto the screen. And really what this is about is supporting bring your own device. Today's workers really own multiple network-connected devices. Many of them aren't standard corporate issue, but all of them can be used for work in some way. So creating an infrastructure that's going to allow all of these devices to be used to share information in a common session is really an ongoing challenge for IT managers. So by using wireless connection and communication protocols that are already common in the majority of personal computers and mobile devices, the Brio enables information sharing from a session participant's Microsoft, Apple, or Android machine without requiring special involvement or IT support. In an environment that relies more and more on technology, really faster decisions and better results, you want to have the best technology on the market, and that's what Christie Brio is. The Brio uses device standards. So you'll notice here in the picture that the iPad utilizes AirPlay to share wirelessly, and the Brio supports this. Now, I hear many people say, well, isn't it easier to just use an Apple TV or a Chromecast, which are inexpensive, small products? But to just display one device, yes, that can work. It can mirror a device and put it up on a screen. But there are really large limitations when you compare that to a Brio. So number one, the Brio is going to support up to 5 users being on the screen at the same time. And number two, the Brio can support many OSs. So whereas if I put in an Apple TV, it's only going to be working with Mac and iOS devices. And I think probably the most pressing kind of limitation to them is that Chromecast and Apple TV are unmanaged devices. The Brio is going to add control and security features that are really robust, which would be definitely needed in a corporate type of environment, as well as in education and really any other type of application where you need some security around it. So most of the solutions on the market are going to support 1 or 2 protocols for sharing. Brio does them all. What this means is that it's really truly going to support bring your own device. So Windows, Mac, iOS, Android, they can all easily be brought onto the screen. That is very much not so with a lot of other solutions out there. One of the other big things is being able to support AirPlay and AirPlay mirroring, which is something that the Brio can do. All right, now I mentioned that I can bring up to 5 people up onto the screen at the same time. So how do I do that, and how do I configure my screen? These are automatic screen layouts that can populate inside of the Brio. So you'll see that there are layouts here on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side that are really showing you how you could lay them out if you had 2 displays or a single display. What's important to note here is that the Brio can be connected to 2 displays, and it will work seamlessly between them. So The layouts can all be changed on the fly to highlight a particular source or go full screen, comparing things side by side. There's really kind of a lot of options of how I want to view my content once it's up on the screen. Now, this shows that, up to 5 people, but as you can also see, you can have as many people using this device, up to 5, as you want. We can also kind of take it a step further and connect the Brio to a touchscreen. So all the control over the layouts and settings can be manipulated by touch right on the screen. As you can see here, you can actually go to the screen and drag and drop your content to its desired position. So it makes things very easy. It's very intuitive as a user to start using this. And one of the other big features is you can also use the touchscreen to start whiteboarding. So yeah, the Brio does that too. I mean, it does a ton of stuff. It's really nice to do the whiteboarding with the touch panel, but that's not required. In real time, any participant can use the whiteboarding functionality. In this picture here, you're going to see that there's a gentleman standing at the screen whiteboarding. But the 2 people that are actually sitting down at their own devices, they're on their own laptops, can also start to interact with that whiteboarding from their own devices. That's true if I had an iPhone or an iPad as well, or a Windows tablet. So being able to extend who has access to edit and to whiteboard, that's a huge benefit of what the Brio can do. I mentioned earlier security, and meeting security features are really a big deal. Not only does this prevent sabotage and pranks from coworkers like myself that like to prank other employees, or students that might want to display something inappropriate on the screen, but it also helps ensure that if I'm viewing sensitive material, that only the correct people are able to see it and manipulate it. One of the things that kind of comes into being able to use this quickly and easily is being able to toggle the session information to show up directly on the screen. Where I find this in the real world really helpful is I'm in meetings all the time where there's some sort of way to connect to the screen, and somebody comes in late and they need to be able to connect to that screen. So what happens is that kind of derails conversations, getting the person set up, ready to present. When I can display all of the connection information right on the screen, the person can walk in the room and silently be able to get up onto the screen without really kind of derailing the conversation. I talked a little bit about controlling the Brio from touchscreens, but the fact is it can be controlled by any device, even if I don't have touchscreens. So I can connect an iPad or use a laptop for that control. Another large feature is that all of these devices that connect to the Brio are also able to follow along with the screen directly from their device. So this is going to effectively extend my presentation off of just that one screen or those 2 screens. If you've ever been in a meeting and are seated in the back and you have trouble seeing the screen, that's where this is fantastic. I could have a boardroom or a meeting room full of people with iPads that are able to follow along with what's going on the screen. Another feature that's going to make a big impact is that audio can be streamed through the Brio as well. This allows me to connect the Brio to in-room sound systems if we already have a conference room sound system. And it's also going to allow participants to control their individual volume. So if I am connected to the screen and I'm sharing something, I can control my volume individually. Another big feature is that not only is it going to stream audio to the Brio from my device, but I can also stream video to it as well. And it's terrific looking video at that. So here are the differences between the different Brio units. I'm going to highlight a few for you. When you look at the team, the one thing that it does not have that I think is kind of the real kind of deal breaker for people if they need it is the physical video inputs. So this is going to allow me to bring local sources and physically connect them to the Brio. Now that is not always needed at all, But if you do have something where I'm in a room and I want to connect a media player and leave that connected to the Brio, maybe a device that doesn't have Wi-Fi connectivity, then I would want to step up to the Team Plus or the Enterprise. Other than that, also have analog audio inputs. So the same type of scenario, if I have another device that I want to physically connect that doesn't have Wi-Fi, that would be a reason for me to go to the Team Plus or the Enterprise. Other than that, the features are fairly similar. The one thing that the Enterprise does not have, though, is the integrated Wi-Fi. So the Team and the Team Plus do have Wi-Fi built into them, which kind of gives you some other abilities. Now, that being said, the Enterprise doesn't have that for a reason. It's really meant to be controlled by the IT staff and put onto the corporate network. So the last slide showed the differences between the models, but I want to quickly touch on a huge benefit of the Enterprise version. So I mentioned that we're going to connect this not via Wi-Fi, but via a LAN. And when I'm able to do that, it also allows me to connect multiple Brios together through the network. When I connect multiple Brios together, this is going to give me the ability to share a collaborative meeting between physical locations. So I can have two teams of people in different meeting rooms working together in the same meeting. The experience of what is going on the screen is mirrored at both locations. So I can collaborate across distance, which is a huge benefit to the Enterprise and something that really nobody else can do right now. Along with being able to share across multiple sites, the Enterprise also introduced host controls. So the host controls allow any Brio to invite other Brios into the meeting. And it also is going to give me the ability to add and drop participants. All right, these next couple slides, I just want to kind of highlight the connectivity. With the Brio Enterprise, we're going to connect this over the LAN. So basically, it's just going to go into the corporate network via a router, and this will allow all of my devices to connect to it. The Brio will get an IP address. This is something that will be it'll be really flexible and really easy for the IT staff to deal with. On the Brio Team Plus or the Team, this can connect over Wi-Fi. So I can connect it via Wi-Fi. I do not need a Bonjour gateway for the device discovery. And all the network services and security can be remotely managed by an IT staff. So this can happen with both the Team and the Team Plus. And also, one of the other nice things about the Team and the Team Plus is because it does Wi-Fi, I can also use it for a standalone application without actually connecting it to a network. It can become its own wireless access point. So it has its built-in Wi-Fi, it will become its own access point, and this really just means that I don't need that network on its own. And they can work completely standalone. So I have a quick little comparison chart of the kind of competitive products in the space. And to break it down, quite simply, the Brio just does more than any of the others. It has more flexibility and features. A couple that I'll hit on real quick is being able to do full desktop mirroring. And that is from Windows or Android or iOS or OS X. That's a huge deal. I'll give you an example. Normally when we are using AirPlay, Apple's AirPlay technology, what happens is in most other kind of collaboration, actually all other collaboration solutions, I need to launch an application. And when I launch that application, it can access my device's normally photos and videos. So those would be able to be shared pretty easily through AirPlay. But with AirPlay mirroring, I'm actually able to mirror my entire device up on the screen. So if I want to show other applications or other things that aren't necessarily accessible via that third-party application, the Brio would enable me to do that. I'll also point out that high-resolution video, so 30 and 60 frame per second video along with HDCP support, that's a huge deal. Now, it says high-resolution 30 and 60 frame per second. I'll shed a little light on that. If I am doing video over Wi-Fi, it would drop its resolution to 30 frames per second, which is still really good. It would get a full 60 frame per second if it was a directly connected device. And then finally, the control aspect is something that is really much more robust on the Brio than any of the others. And then if we start looking at the costs associated with the Brio, it actually ends up being probably the most cost-effective one there when you factor in everything else that kind of goes into an installation. So I want to give you an accurate look at the pricing just so you know what they are. The list price of the Brio Team is $2,900. The list price of the Team Plus is $5,200. And finally, the Enterprise list price is $6,500. So the flexibility of these systems, along with how much time and energy they save, and the way they promote collaboration, which in my opinion is really kind of the foundational piece here. It promotes people to work in a collaborative way. With everything that the Brio does, it's really one of the best priced pieces of technology out there. And it's kind of one that I get really excited about because it does transform how people work. So with that is the end of my slideshow. So I won't bore you with PowerPoint anymore. But if you would like to see it in person or bring a demo system on site, I really think that is probably the best way to really kind of wrap your head around the technology. We'd be more than happy to set that up. So please reach out to the person that invited you or call or email JB&A directly. I put our contact information here. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to be having a Q&A session right now. So if you haven't sent in your questions, please do so now, and I'll make sure we can hit on all the ones that we have time for. So with that, Laura, if you don't mind, have any questions come in?
All right. Yeah, we do have a few, Matt. Thanks. And one of them is somebody was asking if they could get a copy of the slides so that they could sort of do a similar presentation for some of their clients. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, it shouldn't be a problem.
Okay. All right.
I'm just going to watermark it with a picture of me. So
there you go.
As long as that's acceptable, you're good.
Yeah. What about connecting Brio output to a matrix switcher, wall processor, etc.?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So yes, we can connect the output. It does have physical outputs where I can connect to something else, whatever would accept that signal. The other thing to mention there is that I can also connect this to an external control system. So if I do have something like a Crestron or an AMX control panel already installed in my environment, I can use that to manipulate and to control the Brio.
Okay. So next question, if you can only connect 4 devices, how are 5 different people supposed to be displayed?
I'm not sure where I said that you could only connect 4 devices. You can up to 5 people on different devices can be connected at any one time and showing up on the screen. So any 5 people that want to connect via Wi-Fi and have the privileges to do so, they can. And you can choose to display them in any way that you want. Okay,
great. That clears that one up. And someone else asking about the presentation, if it'll be available online. So looks like we should be good. We can put it up in the partner portal, possibly for you to download, or you can reach out to your sales team actually, and they can send a copy to you, would be probably ideal. At JB&A, sorry. Let's see, so what about latency between the various units?
So in my working experience, there's not a noticeable latency. Now that being said, I'm sure people can figure out ways to introduce latency, but because we're streaming via Wi-Fi directly to the the unit itself or over the network. It's actually extremely quick. I've used this personally dozens of times, and there's never been once where I've ever noticed a latency issue at all.
Okay. And do you think that would, have you used it with multiple devices, or asking, does latency change depending on how many are connected?
No, it doesn't really change on how many people are connected. The only thing that I could see really affecting latency is kind of on the enterprise version, where I'm connecting it to the larger network. Being able to really kind of flush out that network, and there is some IT kind of expertise that would go into putting this on the corporate network, where that would be done to reduce your latency. But really just that networking is probably the only place where I would see where latency would be something that would have to be addressed. But again, in my kind of experience in many different scenarios, having it set up in many different ways, having different types of devices connected, I've never noticed latency.
Okay.
There might be some hard specs that are published. I haven't found them, but if there are, I'll definitely look into it and forward them on.
Okay, perfect. It looks like that is the end of our questions for now, unless somebody types one in as we're closing up here. So as you mentioned, you know, people can reach out to JB&A for more information, right? And you've got the phone number and the email right there. We're going to go ahead and put a recording of this particular session up on the website probably sometime tomorrow, and if you'll also receive a link in an email tomorrow with so you can go watch it at any time or show it to anyone else on your team that you think that might not have made it today. Anything else you want to add there, Matt?
No, that's it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sorry. Someone is actually asking, are demos available now?
Yes, they are. So just talk to your sales rep at JB&A, and we'd be more than happy to get you a demo.
Okay, fantastic. All right, thanks so much, Matt.
Well, thank you, Laura, and thank you, everyone, for your time. I hope it was at least a little valuable for you, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, thanks, everybody.